It is time to abandon the lie that 3I Atlas is just a comet. It does not behave like one. It does not look like one. And it certainly does not feel like one. What drifts closer with every passing day is not a frozen rock, not a ball of ice and dust, but something alive. It's coma, the glowing shroud of green mist that so many astronomers insist is sublimating gas, is far too structured, too vibrant, too deliberate. Look at the high-resolution images closely. The glow swirls in spirals, it clusters in nodes, it pulses in waves. That is not vapor escaping. That is release. Release of spores. Yes, spores. The kind of microscopic seeds life itself depends on. Imagine a dandelion blown into the wind. Thousands of tiny parachutes carrying new life across the field. Atlas is no different, except its field is the cosmos and its dandelion head is the size of a mountain. The coma is not evidence of a comet dying, it's evidence of a seed spreading. Those glowing particles are not the remains of something dead, but the beginning of something alive. The more Atlas nears the sun, the brighter its coma becomes, as though sunlight does not kill it, but activates it. Scientists call it sublimation, a simple process of frozen material turning to gas. But the so-called gas is strangely uniform, repeating patterns, clustering like cells dividing in a petri dish. In one leaked observation from the fictional Astrobiological Institute of Geneva, researchers claimed the coma particles reacted to ultraviolet light in ways identical to spores on Earth. They curled, hardened, and then released filaments. Their words were buried, dismissed as faulty analysis, but the data was clear. These particles behaved like seeds. And if they are seeds, what are they waiting for? Seeds do not drift aimlessly. They are designed to land, to find fertile ground, to take root. Atlas is not passing through by chance. It has wandered across interstellar space in search of soil. It has arrived at the solar system, and of all the planets circling the sun, only one offers the perfect conditions: Earth. The implications are staggering. Earth may not be preparing to study a comet. It may be preparing to host one. Every beam of sunlight that passes through Atlas's coma and strikes our atmosphere could carry spores, microscopic passengers ready to fall with the rain, cling to leaves, sink into soil, and merge with life as we know it. Already rumors swirl online about strange phenomena, haze in the skies that tastes metallic on the tongue, sudden rashes in farming communities, pollen counts spiking without explanation. Official agencies dismiss them as paranoia, but the whispers grow. Think about the glow again, the strange, unnatural green light. Green, the color of plants, of growth, of chlorophyll itself. Not the frozen blue of water ice, not the dull white of dust, but green. It is as if Atlas is announcing what it is, broadcasting its nature across the heavens. I am alive, I am a seed, and soon I will bloom. For the first time in human history, we are not staring at an alien rock. We are staring at alien biology. The cage of ice is not a shell, but a husk. The coma is not gas, but spores. And Atlas is not dying, it is planting. The world watches it streak across the darkness, ignorant or in denial of the truth. But every passing second, more spores drift invisibly into our skies, settling silently, waiting for the moment when their time will come. Earth thinks it is observing a comet, but in truth, the comet is already observing Earth, already testing its soil, already preparing to sprout. Not a rock, not a comet, a seed, and our world may soon be its garden. The truth about Atlas is not in its icy glow, but in the tail that stretches millions of kilometers across the blackness of space. To the untrained eye, it looks like any comet's dust trail, harmless particles reflecting sunlight. But look closer. Look at the way the tail curves, how it does not simply scatter in chaos, but flows in waves, curling like strands of DNA, spiraling as though designed. That is not dust. That is not ice. That is a cloud of spores, a genetic storm drifting across the solar system, like pollen caught on a cosmic wind. When astronomers first measured the composition of Atlas's tail, they noticed anomalies. Spectral readings revealed complex organic signatures, patterns too elaborate for random chemistry. Instead of simple molecules, like carbon dioxide or methane, instruments picked up spectral fingerprints resembling amino acids, the very building blocks of life. This finding was quickly brushed aside as instrumental noise, but insiders whisper it was real, buried before panic could erupt. A comet tail made of amino acids is strange. A comet tail structured like DNA is impossible, unless the comet isn't a comet, unless it is alive. Think about how plants on Earth spread. A flower releases pollen into the air. Trees shed seeds that travel on the breeze. Fungi explode into clouds of spores that drift silently until they find damp soil. Now, imagine the same principle scaled up to astronomical proportions. Atlas is not traveling alone. It is scattering potential life across every system it passes. Its tail is a delivery system, casting spores into orbits, letting gravity pull them down onto unsuspecting planets. Earth is next. Already, rumors circulate that parts of the tail are brushing the edge of our magnetosphere. Strange electrical fluctuations, faint showers of organic dust, and high-altitude anomalies suggest that the first spores may already be raining down. Pilots in private forums have described shimmering streaks across the upper atmosphere, glowing faintly green, like auroras that move too fast. Some even claim their instruments briefly malfunctioned, as if something biological, not electrical, interfered with their systems. Videos have gone viral online, showing people holding jars of rainwater that appears to shimmer under ultraviolet light. They insist these droplets carry particles from Atlas, living matter invisible to the naked eye. Scientists dismiss this as nonsense, but why do the clips keep disappearing? Why are entire accounts banned within hours of posting? The tail is not static. It grows denser as Atlas nears the sun, feeding on solar radiation and multiplying. What looks like a comet's bright plume may in fact be billions of microscopic seeds blooming into readiness, waiting for the right moment to fall. This explains why the glow of Atlas intensifies unnaturally fast. It isn't just reflecting sunlight. It's alive, it's thriving, it's reproducing. And here's the terrifying part. Spores don't need permission to spread. They don't wait for scientists to declare their existence. If even a fraction of the tail intersects Earth's orbit, spores will pour into our skies like dust on the wind. They will fall into oceans, cling to crops, settle into lungs. Invisible, unstoppable, patient. Atlas is not merely passing through the solar system, it is planting. Its tail is a cloud of fertility, a storm of life, carrying genetic material across the void. To some, this is miraculous, proof that life exists everywhere, seeds scattered like stars. But to others, it is an invasion, because no one knows what will happen when those spores take root. Today, the world still gazes at Atlas as a distant green streak. Tomorrow we may breathe it. Tomorrow, the soil beneath our feet may harbor something not of this world. And tomorrow, the tail of Atlas will no longer be a spectacle. It will be the beginning of colonization. It started with whispers from farming communities, dismissed at first as superstition or poor harvests. A vineyard in southern Italy reported leaves turning black, not from disease, but from an iridescent shimmer that no pesticide could touch. In Kansas, fields of corn displayed stalks that bent unnaturally toward the night sky, as though straining to receive signals from the stars. A farmer in Argentina uploaded a video showing soy plants sprouting tendrils with translucent veins that glowed faintly green under the moonlight. He laughed nervously in the recording, calling it a trick of the camera. Hours later, the video vanished, his account deleted, and only bootleg copies circulate on dark corners of the web. Then came the forests. In Siberia, hunters reported birch trees with leaves that had shifted from white-green to a deep, unnatural crimson. Even in the heart of summer, satellite images captured entire swaths of Amazon rainforest reflecting oddly in infrared, patches where chlorophyll signatures deviated from the norm. Scientists brushed these anomalies off as errors, calibration issues, or fungal outbreaks. But those who looked closer saw a chilling pattern. These mutations were clustered along latitudes most exposed to sunlight that passed through Atlas's coma and tail. One particularly haunting case surfaced in Japan. Gardeners tending ornamental bonsai trees reported that their plants, passed down for generations, had begun sprouting entirely new leaves shaped like spiked stars. The leaves glowed faintly at night, enough to be seen in complete darkness. Local officials claimed contamination from industrial pollution, yet the gardeners swore the air was clean, and the timing, just weeks after Atlas's tail crossed Earth's orbital plane, was too precise to ignore. Perhaps the most alarming mutation came from a greenhouse in the Netherlands. A botanist posted images of tulips that had split open not to reveal petals but strange fibrous pods. Inside the pods were seed-like structures that writhed ever so slightly, as though alive. Within days of posting, the botanist retracted his findings, issuing a bland statement that it was an error in classification. But by then, screenshots had gone viral, and people began to ask the question no one wanted to hear. What if Atlas has already planted something? Alternative media exploded with speculation. Commentators argued that the spores carried by Atlas were not waiting for Earth to receive them. They were already here, piggybacking on sunlight, infiltrating the DNA of plants, rewriting it line by line. To believers, every strange flower, every twisted stalk was evidence of Earth's transformation. To skeptics, it was hysteria, but the images kept coming. Vineyards glowing at night, forests turning alien shades, gardens sprouting shapes never seen before. Online communities began cataloging these mutations in shared maps, creating infection zones. Red pins marked regions with the most reports: Central United States, parts of South America, Eastern Europe, and Southeast Asia. The patterns formed lines across the globe, tracing the path of sunlight filtered through Atlas's veil. Skeptics argued that random reports could be placed anywhere. Believers countered that the alignment was too precise, too deliberate. Some began to whisper of a green wave approaching, a biological front sweeping across Earth, invisible yet relentless. Spiritual leaders seized on the idea, calling it proof of a coming rebirth. The soil is awakening, one preacher declared in a viral sermon. The plants are not mutating, they are blooming into their true form, the one Atlas always intended. But in hushed laboratories, researchers tested samples taken from these strange plants. According to alleged leaks, the results were shocking. DNA sequences showed splicing unlike anything on Earth, foreign segments that appeared to be intelligently inserted, rewriting native genomes as if by design. One scientist reportedly described the phenomenon as a software update for biology. The world above may scoff, but those working in the soil see it firsthand. The crops are changing, the forests are mutating. The leaves themselves glow with messages written in chlorophyll. Whether parasite or gift, Atlas is not waiting. It is already planting, and Earth is already responding. Plants are the first to speak the truth. Long before governments acknowledge anything, before scientists find the courage to release their data, the fields whisper what's coming. Across continents, leaves begin to shift hue, stalks to twist into alien patterns, roots to push through soil like searching fingers. Farmers stare at their crops with unease, unsure whether they're looking at blight or a birth. Reports leak from the edges of the world. In Nebraska, sunflowers bloom with petals that curl upward like antennae, faintly iridescent in moonlight. In rural India, rice paddies glow for a moment at dusk as if lit from within. In Chile's wine country, grapevines sprout thread-like filaments connecting neighboring plants into a lattice. Videos of these anomalies circulate online, briefly trending before disappearing under waves of fact-checking labels. Patterns emerge. The mutations are not random. They cluster along the latitudes and times where sunlight has passed through Atlas's tail before reaching Earth. Spectral analysis of these zones, quietly posted and then deleted by amateur researchers, shows an uptick in trace organic compounds never before detected in the atmosphere. Spores, perhaps. Microscopic seeds filtering down with the rain. One of the most chilling cases surfaces in Romania, an old-growth forest where every leaf on every tree begins to darken from green to a deep, luminous teal. The color shift coincides exactly with the moment Atlas crosses a particular orbital point. Satellite photos show the change as a scar of unnatural color running across the Carpathians. Locals whisper of the sky seed taking root. At a university greenhouse in Canada, botanists report that their test plants develop new symmetrical veins shaped like fractal snowflakes. These structures don't belong to any known genus. Under ultraviolet light, they pulse faintly, as though alive with electrical signals. It's not a disease, one grad student writes anonymously on a forum. It's instructions. The mainstream narrative remains dismissive. Pollution, climate change, misidentification. Yet every day brings new footage, new whispers. People are starting to compare notes. Maps appear online charting infiltration zones, red pins clustering where mutations are strongest. The lines trace arcs across the globe, matching the path of sunlight bent by Atlas's green veil. On TikTok and YouTube, the phenomenon goes viral. Hashtags like Seed from the Stars and Atlas Bloom trend. Some influencers dramatize it, calling themselves the first gardeners, claiming the mutations are not a threat but a gift. Others post panicked videos of their yards sprouting strange, twisting vines overnight. Inside labs, away from cameras, the testing begins. Alleged leaks from a private biotech firm show gene sequences from affected plants with insertions no one can explain. Foreign codons spliced seamlessly into native DNA, as though rewritten by an unseen hand. This is not random, one anonymous memo reads. It's a biological payload. Whether it's parasite or promise, something is happening. Spores from Atlas's tail may already be here, invisible, working through chlorophyll and soil. The Earth's flora is shifting from green to something else, something older, something planned. And if the plants are only the first phase, no one knows what will follow. The seed is not waiting for permission. It's already germinating. A parasite doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or wait for consent. It arrives silently, settles into its host, and begins rewriting from within. That is what 3I Atlas truly is. Not a comet, not a seed in the poetic sense, but a parasitic organism on a planetary scale. Earth is not observing Atlas. Earth is being observed, scanned, tested, measured for compatibility, and the results are clear. Our world is fertile soil. Biologists who dare to speak off the record describe what they see in muted terror. The so-called mutations in plants do not look random. They resemble integration. Alien codons, sequences never before cataloged. are splicing seamlessly into native genomes. The green glow of Atlas's coma, once dismissed as harmless dust, contains strands of genetic material that behave like viral vectors. Under the microscope, these sequences latch onto existing DNA, copy themselves, and insert new instructions. Infected plants do not weaken, they adapt. They change their forms as though guided by an invisible architect. This is how parasites work, not by destroying their hosts outright, but by bending them into something new, something useful. Consider how fungi on Earth manipulate ants into climbing trees before consuming them, or how viruses hijack cells to reproduce. Atlas is doing the same thing, except its host is not an ant or a cell. It is Earth itself. Imagine a planet as soil, filled with native organisms. Into this soil falls a cosmic parasite, a living seed designed to overwrite biology. Slowly, patiently, it spreads. First, the plants, because they are rooted, defenseless, and tied directly to sunlight. Then, through food chains and ecosystems, it spreads to everything else. Livestock eat the grass. Humans eat the livestock. Fish swallow spores that settle into oceans. Birds carry infected seeds across continents. Soon, no ecosystem remains untouched. And once the parasite has gained a foothold, the transformation accelerates. A farm isn't just farmland anymore. It becomes a laboratory, an incubator. Forests shift their biochemistry, bending into alien architectures. The parasite doesn't kill the host planet. It remakes it cell by cell, gene by gene, until the entire biosphere belongs to Atlas. Leaked documents from the so-called Orbital Biosurveillance Project hint at this terrifying reality. Analysts describe progressive genetic convergence, meaning samples from unrelated plants, collected continents apart, are beginning to display the same inserted codons. Left unchecked, this could mean that within a single generation, Earth's biodiversity collapses into a singular alien template. Diversity erased, evolution rewritten. This is not colonization in the way we imagine it. Ships landing, cities built, armies marching. It is far more inside, colonization from within. Earth becomes the soil, humanity becomes the nutrient layer, and the parasite flourishes. Already, some reports describe atmospheric changes, minor shifts in oxygen content, strange chemical signatures in rainfall, spores detected at the edges of the stratosphere. These are the first signs of planetary infection. And just as parasites sometimes destroy their hosts when reproduction is complete, Atlas may not intend for Earth to survive the process. It may bloom, consume, and then cast its spores outward once again, sending new seeds into space to drift toward the next unsuspecting world. This cycle could have repeated across galaxies for billions of years. Countless planets stripped, rewritten, abandoned shells left behind as Atlas's children drift on. When you look up at the sky and see the streak of Atlas, you're not looking at a harmless comet. You're looking at a parasite in motion, hunting for its next host. And now, after its long journey through interstellar darkness, it has found us. Earth is its soil, humanity is its food, and the infection has already begun. The panic didn't begin in laboratories or observatories. It began in kitchens, in barns, in the fields where people work the soil every day. Farmers were the first to cry out. They filmed with shaky hands as their harvests changed before their eyes. Wheat that grew heads twice the normal size. Corn husks splitting open to reveal kernels glowing faintly in the dark. Tomatoes with strange ridges that pulsed like veins. These weren't just crops gone wrong. These were crops becoming something else. The videos flooded TikTok, YouTube, Telegram. Some were mocked, others branded as hoaxes, but the sheer number of them made it impossible to dismiss. People weren't just watching their food change, they were watching their way of life vanish. One viral clip showed a farmer in Iowa slicing open a pumpkin, only to find its interior filled, not with seeds, but with fibrous tendrils that writhed when exposed to air. He screamed, dropped the knife, and the video cut off. Another, from a rice farmer in Thailand, displayed entire paddies shimmering with a faint luminescent haze, the stalks bending in unison, as if responding to some invisible signal from the sky. The caption read, "The seed has already landed." The panic spilled from fields into markets. Shoppers in Brazil reported bananas that browned instantly after being peeled, leaving behind a sour chemical smell. In Eastern Europe, apples that appeared normal on the outside collapsed into black sludge after a single bite. Superstitions grew overnight. Don't eat fruit under a green sky. Don't drink water collected in morning dew. Don't touch plants that turn toward the moon. Some ignored these warnings. Others followed them religiously, but not everyone saw the changes as a curse. Spiritual leaders emerged, declaring that Atlas was the gardener of a new Eden. A preacher in Mexico claimed in a live-streamed sermon that the old earth is being stripped away and a higher crop is being sown. His followers cheered as he held up a mutated ear of corn, calling it the first fruit of paradise. Across Asia, sects began to worship Atlas openly, treating it not as a threat, but as a messiah. They planted its spores intentionally, believing themselves chosen to nurture the coming transformation. Governments, overwhelmed by the viral flood of evidence, tried desperately to contain the hysteria. Official statements dismissed the footage as manipulated, citing climate change, pollution, or fungal outbreaks. But people no longer believed. Too many had seen the changes firsthand. Too many had tasted them. Supermarkets in several cities reported riots as people smashed produce aisles, demanding the government recall infected food. Rumors spread that militaries were burning entire harvests in secret to prevent contamination, their flames visible from miles away at night. In the shadows of all this chaos, whispers circulated of darker signs: cattle collapsing after grazing, dogs refusing to eat meat cooked from changed animals, children breaking out in rashes after climbing trees whose leaves shimmered with an alien sheen. Doctors issued bland explanations: allergies, bacterial infections, foodborne illness. Yet those who worked the land knew better. The infection was spreading, and it was not stopping. And through it all, Atlas gleamed brighter in the sky, its green light growing stronger, its tail fanning wider, as if watching its experiment unfold. Farmers feared it, preachers praised it, scientists denied it, but every day, more videos surfaced, more fields twisted, more lives were shaken. Society itself was splitting into two. Those who saw Atlas as an invader rewriting Earth into something unrecognizable, and those who saw it as a gardener sowing the seeds of paradise. The panic is no longer whispered in forums or tucked into conspiracy videos. It is here, in our food, our soil, our daily lives. Humanity can no longer ignore it. The seed is sprouting, and Earth is no longer ours alone. The day of blooming will not arrive with trumpets or fire from the sky. It will arrive silently, invisibly, as Atlas draws nearest to the sun and the spores it has shed for months awaken in unison. Scientists tracking its trajectory have already warned, off the record, that the increase in radiation during perihelion could act as the final trigger. Sunlight itself becomes the switch, igniting the dormant spores scattered across our soil, water, and even our bodies. When that moment comes, Earth will not resist. Earth will transform. Imagine it. Fields erupting overnight into alien jungles. Crops that once grew neatly in rows, now twisting upward into towers of green crystal-like stalks. Trees splitting open to reveal bioluminescent fruit that hums faintly with energy. Grass carpeting entire cities in a single day, growing fast enough to crack asphalt, swallow roads, and climb the walls of skyscrapers. The very air thickening with invisible filaments, threads of alien life knitting a new ecosystem above our own. Leaked reports from a classified agency in Geneva describe simulations run on supercomputers. They call the event phase bloom. According to their models, if even 1% of spores currently drifting in the atmosphere activate, within 3 weeks, Earth's biomass will be completely overtaken. DNA from native species will no longer exist in its original form. Every tree, flower, insect, and mammal will carry fragments of Atlas's genetic code rewritten into new configurations. Humanity itself would not be immune. Skin rashes, subtle neurological shifts, sudden changes in fertility, all the early symptoms of integration. The bloom would not just change the Earth, it would change us. Already, hints of this future are appearing. Crops sprouting flowers months out of season. Forests in Siberia glowing faintly at night. Viral footage from Peru showing entire hillsides pulsing like a single living organism, as though the land itself was breathing. Denials come fast, but believers see them for what they are: test runs. The seed is flexing its power, preparing for the final surge when sunlight and spores align. Religious groups frame the bloom as a second Genesis. The garden is returning, they preach, and the old world must die for the new one to grow. They prepare mass rituals, not in temples, but in fields, laying their bodies down in the soil as if offering themselves to the new roots. They chant for the flowering, believing they will rise as something higher, better, purified by Atlas's gift. But for others, the bloom is nothing less than extinction. Panic spreads in cities as conspiracy channels circulate doomsday calendars, counting the days until perihelion. Some families flee to underground bunkers, convinced that only by hiding from the sun can they avoid infection. Others burn their crops, their gardens, their forests, in desperate attempts to kill whatever spores have already taken root. Yet deep inside, they all know it's futile. The spores are everywhere, in the air, in the rain, in the soil, in their lungs. And still Atlas grows brighter in the night sky, its emerald glow visible even to the naked eye. To some, it looks beautiful, almost holy. To others, it is the last signal, the final warning before the bloom begins. The comet does not race, it waits, patient, knowing its children are already here, waiting only for the light of the sun to call them awake. When that moment comes, Earth will no longer belong to humans. It will not belong to nations, governments, or faiths. It will belong to Atlas. The seed will flower, and we will stand powerless, witnesses to the garden of another world consuming our own. And maybe, just maybe, we will realize too late that we were never the masters of this planet. We were only the soil,